Welcome back to the final chapter of Get Hooked on Phonics. This part deals primarily with structural analysis. Within the first few weeks of school, first graders in the Open Court Phonics program are reading a decodable book about a playful monkey called Hip. In this 8-page story, there is one sentence per page with illustrations that closely match the text. This is an excerpt from a single page of text in one of the decodable books Mr. Lee the Brave used at the end of the school year in the first grade Open Court Phonics program. It's considerably more advanced than the story about Pip. Look at the huge range of phonic and even structural analysis elements that children have learned in their first year. They are dealing with short vowels and long vowels made with varying patterns, R-controlled vowels, consonant blends and consonant digraphs, words with endings including base words that are modified before the ending is added, as in the case of chipping and cried. They are dealing with compound words and also two-syllable words. It has been a year packed with phonic and structural analysis. Structural analysis or syllabication is one more step in word identification besides the use of phonics. We mentioned open and closed syllables earlier, and they are an important component to decoding polysyllabic words. Once children have learned the sound-symbol associations and can apply the patterns discussed with single-syllable words, they need to also begin applying those same decoding principles to polysyllabic words. This can be difficult, though, as children stumble when they try to take apart these longer words. By the way, did you figure out the trick with the vowel sound for Y? Y at the end of a short, one-syllable word usually is long I. But if Y is at the end of a longer, two-syllable or more word, it will usually make the long E sound. The next few slides provide some simple tips to help students with breaking apart longer words. This first slide deals with vowel digraphs and also with words where each vowel makes its own individual sound. This slide deals with the use of identifying affixes and compound words to break apart longer words. Some words have a single syllable in the middle, with a vowel on either side of it. By trial and error, the student can divide that word after the middle consonant, making the first syllable closed with a short vowel sound. If this doesn't produce a recognizable word, the reader can divide the word after the first vowel, making this an open syllable with a long vowel sound. Sometimes there are two or more consonants between the vowels. Here are some ways to divide these words into syllables. This last slide shows the consonant LE pattern and EL and AL at the end of words. We have used this word before, but now we will consider it as it relates to phonics and word identification. When the morpheme in a word is the main meaning component of the word, it is considered to be the base or root of that word. A base word can stand alone and is considered a free morpheme, while a root word needs to be connected to another morpheme to make a recognizable word. It and the other morpheme it's connected to are both bound morphemes because they cannot stand alone. You would need to know some of these terms for the alphabetic survey test. Prefixes and suffixes are both bound morphemes. They can't stand alone and must always be attached to another word part. These type of bound morphemes can be divided into two categories, inflectional and derivational. Inflectional morphemes are all suffixes and indicate grammatical changes to a word and usually do not change the actual meaning of a word. Derivational morphemes, on the other hand, include prefixes and suffixes. The suffix can change the class of a word, such as in engagement, where the verb engage is turned into a noun, and with the ment ending. Prefixes and suffixes can also alter the meaning of a word, such as adding un to happy to make the opposite of happy. Essentially, you derive a new meaning by adding these type of morphemes, which makes them derivational morphemes. This slide would be very helpful with the alphabetic survey test also. Students need to be familiar with basic affixes and the effect that they can have on words. They should be able to identify various affixes so they can use the strategy mentioned earlier in syllabication, where they take off or separate the affix from an unfamiliar word to shorten it and find the base or root word. Once they decode this chunk, they can add the affixes back on and read the entire word. An added bonus is that knowledge of the meaning of various derivational affixes will help the reader determine the meaning of the word as well as its function in the sentence. Is it working as a noun or an adjective or adverb? For example, knowing that semi-annually is acting as an adverb that means twice a year, semi, they can solve a math problem such as, Dad pays his car insurance premium of $500 semi-annually. How much money has he paid over the past 3 years for his insurance? As vocabulary becomes more and more challenging, being able to utilize this knowledge of morphemes is vital. Teachers can help students navigate the myriad of affixes by creating and displaying a chart with students of prefixes and their meanings and suffixes that can be constant resources for students. The next few slides demonstrates how dealing with morphemes becomes more sophisticated through a child's elementary years. We're going to use the word play as an example. In first grade, students meet simple inflectional endings and some prefixes and suffixes. In second grade, they might see the word play as part of a compound word. In third grade, they begin to work with derivational affixes. In fourth grade, they continue to work with affixes. In fifth grade, they may expand to working with multi-morphemic words. And in sixth grade, they begin to deal with even more sophisticated words. Now that you're an expert on morphemes, read each word and divide it into the morphemes using a slash mark. This was a good way to practice for the test later this week. You will be asked to do the same task with different words on the alphabetic survey test. This is true not only of Greek roots, but also of Latin roots. Learning the most common Greek and Latin roots and their meanings can help to grow a child's decoding and meaning-making skills. Just as we acquired many words from French that have to do with fine arts, you will notice that a lot of our science and literature terminology stems from many of these Greek roots. Any time is a good time to teach phonic and structural analysis skills, but here are just a few time slots for this very important work. Just keep in mind these practical guidelines for working with words and their sounds. These books are highly recommended. You could easily teach any aspect of phonics, structural analysis, and spelling simply by following the principles and activities outlined in the first 2 books. Phonics They Use and Words Their Way. The third book is a great resource for the exploration of words of all kinds, be it by lists of phonic elements or to categories of words like homophones and idioms. If you like the idea of doing a Making Words activity with your students, here are several books that include dozens of Making Word lessons.